here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Another exciting edition of the Scouser and the Scot.
So today we have got someone who I've been really looking forward to this one actually, because obviously he's got his own book out. He's also a musician and he's had his own challenges. So no further ado, let's introduce our guest today, James Kennedy. How the fuck are you, mate?
I'm fucking great, man. I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to trying to decipher what you guys are talking about for the next 20 minutes.
There'll be subtitles at the bottom. Don't worry.
Oh, cool.
I think that's a fucking cheat coming for somebody from Wales, to be fucking honest. We'll let it slide.
So we normally have a few questions, but I think today we're just going to go through a number of issues and points that you've raised in your book, how you started and stuff like that. So it's more of a casual chat, mate. So are you ready to start?
I'm born ready, man. Let's do it.
Oh, I love this, John, already, mate. I'll let you start with the first question, buddy.
All right, James. So, I mean, obviously I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I've read the book, by the way. That's the reason why I've said that. I'm not his father or anything like that.
He's a stalker.
Yeah, I mean, can you talk us through the first time you ever came across music that meant something to you, that made you sort of stand back and go, do you know what? That's magic and that's what I want to do. Can you talk us through that?
Man, I can't remember like my first memory of that because I grew up in a household. My parents are super cool. They're like weed smoking hippies, atheists, full on left wingers, you know what I mean? And like our house was just, from the day I was born, Pink Floyd, Frank Zappa, Kate Bush, Led Zeppelin, all the good stuff. So, I mean, it was just natural to me. There was never a kind of revelation moment. I was just around good music all the time. Hendrix, I grew up listening to that stuff, So, music was just, it was part of the normal tapestry of life in our household. Music, books, smoking weed, philosophical conversations about politics. It was just the norm.
Yeah. So then let me phrase it another way. What was the first band that you discovered for yourself that made you go, like your mom and dad weren't playing it.
Right.
You discovered it and you went, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good question. I got to say, I'm not a big fan of them now, but when I heard the Holy Bible by the Manic Street Preachers, I was a teenager, and that kind of, that opened up a whole new world for me because it hit me at about the right age. I was kind of like 16 or something like that, and it was all like depressing and eyeliner, and lyrics, heavy going lyrics about books, and of course, kick-ass riffs and great songs and stuff. So that was one that kind of, when you're a teen, you kind of find your gang, whether it's metal or Oasis or whatever it is, you find your club. And for me, that was that took me away from at that point I was very much into the shredding kind of widdly guitar playing, Steve Vai and Dream Theater, and all I wanted to be at that point was the best guitar player. I wasn't a singer or a songwriter at that point. So I had all the sweet pick in and the tap in and the dive bombs. I had all that down. And then when I heard that album, I was like, okay, this is my gang. I'm kind of a depressed, kind of alienated teen. This speaks to me, So that took me down a whole different road. And from there, it was like Radiohead, and all that. I moved away from kind of like whittling guitar into more, pedals and sounds and songs and philosophical lyrics and stuff like that. So I think that there was probably more way before that, but I think that was one that I can just think of sort of in the moment,
Okay, just to throw it out there, being a guitarist myself, and let's because a lot of people always want to learn how to whittle. Everyone wants to learn how to shred. Everyone wants to do different things and stuff like that. And it's like, you've just you've just said something which is really interesting in my opinion anyway, which is using different effects instead of going for the shred, going for the 100 notes to solo, different sounds and stuff like that. How important is it to learn both sides for you?
I think it's really important. I think it comes down to that old debate of technique versus feel. I've got so many friends now, and they're they don't want to learn too much theory, or they don't want to learn, if you talk about some new technique you're practicing, they think, oh, it's wanky or whatever. But it's not really. It depends how you apply it. A bend is a technique. You know what I mean? And the blues players do that every other note. So I think it's all good. It just depends what you use it for. You know, I mean, I'm glad that I started out wanting to be the world's, you know, fastest shredder, because that's benefited me in other ways. But I mean, I'm glad that I moved away from it as well, you know, because learning about, you know, like Radiohead, you know, like when I discovered them and the way they would layer their sounds and used to, like, you know, they didn't have shredding solos, but it would be like whammy effects and loads of delay and modulation stuff and just weird chords. You know, it's all good, man. They're all tools, isn't they? You know, but I mean, you know, the worst case scenario for me is something like Yngwie Malmsteen, which is it's just shred and nothing else. You know, for me that's impressive for like one solo, and then it's like, okay, I'm bored. You know.
Yeah, I must admit, it was like me. I always was in rock bands or metal bands or sort of stadium rock, you know, arena rock bands in the 80s. And then the last two bands it was in was the same guitarist, and he never played a solo in any song, because we were like, by that time we were kind of like what we called it indie then, independent. So it was like the Wonder stuff and bands like that, and more like U2, you know, sort of that kind of style of thing. And it was like, so I remember coming to, so when's the lead break coming? And he went, I don't do lead breaks. I went, how the fucking hell are we going to do a gig if you don't do a lead break? And I just said no. And you know what? It was only once I watched him and listened to him, and then the drummer was superb, and how because it was only three, it was a, you know, like me and then three musicians, and it opened my eyes to a different world, because we didn't do that, and I loved it, and it was better for me as a vocalist as well.
Yeah,
it really was.
Yeah, I mean, I love listening to someone shred as much as anybody, man. I went to see Alan Holdsworth play. He came to the Valleys in a little theater, and I went with my mate. And man, for like the first half an hour, my fucking brain was blown wide open. I mean, I was a fan anyway, but just watching what he does is just not of this earth. If anyone watching hasn't seen Alan Holdsworth, the guitar players out there, you've got to go and check this guy out, man. It's like nothing you've ever heard. But I mean, the music's pretty awful. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, as long as he's soloing, it's like mind blowing. But I mean, after about half an hour, I felt like I'd seen it. You know, I was like, man, how long is this gig? You know what I mean? I wanted Bruce Dickinson to come down on a bungee, you know, and entertain us or something. You know what I mean? With a bit of Run to the Hills or something. It's simple, you know. So I think for me, I like a bit of everything.
And that's the same with me. I feel the same way about singers. You know, the diva singers, the ones that have all the range, and they do all their runs and their trills, but they do it all the way through the song. And I'm like, no, just sing the fucking melody. And then at points shows your light and shade and shows your range, but no.
That's it.
You know, it's a bit like jazz to me. If your whole point of you being in the jazz is just to show how good you are, irrespective of the melody of the bloody song, then forget it.
Yeah, but John, don't you think that's where, obviously, I know you were saying about the difference between a shred guitarist and obviously a rhythm guitarist, a technical rhythm guitarist, because that's what it is. It's learning how to adapt the song, and that where it comes down to theory, to what sounds right in your head. It's sort of like, this is why I love music, because I know there's only a limited number of notes, but if you play it and it gives you the goosebumps, it makes you happy, you're doing the right thing. And if it makes someone else happy, Jesus Christ, you've won.
I totally agree with that. Like, I was a massive Frank Zappa fan. You know, I love Frank. He's a genius. You know what I mean? I still think of him as a genius, massive inspiration on me. But I mean, like, I was a Zappa head for years, and I got really into the technical stuff as a result of that. You know, I got into kind of like graphic score and music concrete and all the weird electronic music and stuff like that. And I was really into it. You know, I kind of became a little bit of a snob, a musical elitist. And then after a few years, I thought, you know what? Like, none of his songs, as much as I love him, I've never brought the hairs up on the back of my neck. You know, I can listen to The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd now still, after like 20 years of listening to it. And man, it's just like, you just can't describe that. Two chords, just the way it's done. You know, it's just you can't explain it. You know,
it's really funny that the two of you are talking about music that was out in my time, because I'm older than you guys, and the music you talk about left me stone cold right for the minute go. Zappa and that, I was like, fuck's that about? You know, I never got it. Captain Beefheart, it was like, this is just wank. You know, it's just never. But when Rainbow came out, then that was like, yeah, that's cool. You know, or The Who or something. It just shows you the difference. And
great.
Again, I was never a guitarist, so.
That's the beautiful thing about it, man. It's just so much music out there, especially these days more than ever. You know what I mean? It's like, it's literally whatever you want to find will be out there somewhere, and you can find it. You know, whereas back in the day, you were limited really to what was either in a record shop or your parents' record collection. You know, whereas now, whatever you want is out there, which is amazing.
It is, but I think it takes a bit of the fun away. And I'm going to throw a curveball in where you had to wait for something to come out. Now you're expected to deliver every month, every other month. Like, you know what I mean? I know the guy from Spotify, and it's a very touchy subject, a hot potato with a lot of musicians and stuff like that. But he's the one who's coming out saying, well, if you want to make money, the musician needs to release music and I can see both sides to it. But obviously, it's the musician who doesn't make as much money as the guy who owns Spotify, and he doesn't do anything.
Totally.
And it's sort of like it. But to release good music, you don't want to release just anything and everything every month just to please a few people. It should be really
Definitely
quality over
got
quantity.
like quantity over quality for sure, definitely. I mean, in theory, it's like a new utopia. Like back in the bad old days, you know, if you couldn't get a record deal, then you were screwed. That was it, game over. You know, you couldn't afford to go to like a big studio with a big mixing desk and some guy that knew how to use it all. And even if you did, so what? You'd have a big reel-to-reel tape in your hand. What are you going to do with that? You know, so you can release it or anything. You know, so like today, like you don't have that, which for me as someone that's my relationship with the music industry has always been really bad. So for me, it's great that I can make an album. Like I made Make Anger Great Again, my latest album, in this room, you know, and released it on the internet, you know, through my own label. No one told me what to do. It's fucking awesome. Didn't cost me a penny to make it, and that's amazing to have those tools and that power available to you. But the problem is that those tools are available to literally everybody on the planet. You know what I mean? So, you know, it is it's a double-edged sword. And the problem is that, you know, how do you get heard above that noise? You know, the problem now is not, I can't get a deal, so therefore I can't have a career in music. You know, that's not the case anymore. The problem now is I can make a record for free, put it out for free, potentially promote it to the world through social media. But how do you get heard over the noise of literally everyone else on the planet also doing that?
I mean, sorry.
No, go on, John. I was going to talk about it.
I mean, the thing is obviously I know that the history of your first album and everything, that you recorded it yourself, and then I think if I remember rightly, you put it out and you didn't even have a band at the time, and then the band came along, and then you then put the album out like 10 years later again in a way that you liked it better, and you were lauded, weren't you? That band was lauded initially. You were the next big thing. You know, and what age were you then, James, when you were getting lauded?
I was 22 when it came out. So, it kind of, the old industry was still, hadn't died yet. It was about a year away from getting the bullet in the head, you know. So it was still very much I think MySpace was around then. It was still the era of sending demo CDs to London, going for meetings and doing showcases, that kind of thing. And I'd come up, you know, through that era. That was what I'd learned was the thing to do. So, you know, I made the record by myself, whole album, played everything, burned some CDs and sent it off to like the local press just to get it out of my hands so that I could stop potching with it, because it was finished like a year ago, but I kept remixing and adding things, as you do when you're doing it by yourself, because you've got nobody to rein you in. So I thought, I'm going to send this to like a local magazine, and then it's whatever they say about it, then it's out there. You know, it's kind of like that's sealed, it's shut. Then it's that entity now. It's not something that's in my room, you know. And I got a double page spread. Next thing you know, I'm played on Radio 1, and I'm getting all this like, you know, national press and music magazines and stuff. And Hugh Stevens, you know, is coming to our gigs and wants to sign me to his label. And Sony are on the phone, Warner Brothers are on the phone. You know, it just fucking went off, you know. And I'd heard all these scare stories about how shit the business was and how hard it was. And I was thinking, well, it's fucking easy. You know what I mean? It's like, I live in this little village. I don't know anybody. We haven't even got a shop or a post office. And I'm having to drive like 40 minutes to post these jiffy bags to people. And I'm going back and forth to London. This is easy. This is awesome. And, you know, but then the next year, the industry crashed. All those guys got fired and no one knew what the fuck was going on for the next 10 years, you know. So, it was a very strange time, because at the time we were going through the transition of the old industry dying and the new model that we're in now. There was nothing kind of in the middle, and no one really knew at that time, you know, what we were going through. We just thought it was a rocky period or whatever, or the interest had dried up. We didn't realize we were going through an actual complete historic overhaul of our entire industry, you know.
Was this at the time of Napster and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, the download era.
Yeah.
I get you. So this is where.
So I came up with the first record just at the peak of that, and I think that the major labels were kind of still sniffing, and then it was just like within a year, it was just like the bottom just fell out. You know, I think like 2003, something like that.
Do you actually think it's actually recovered?
I think it's adapted. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the big players are still there, and they're the big three, you know, and they own all the other labels and stuff like that. I do feel like the heyday has kind of maybe gone a little bit. Like there was a heyday, you know, the new utopia when social media came along and everything, and people could make, like I just described, make a record in their house, put it online. Now it's kind of come, you know, 180 again, in the sense that the major label model has kind of come back. Whereas in order to get heard above the noise, like I was just saying, you know, you could do that if you've got tons of cash. And because everything now is controlled by tech companies, you know, if you can throw 100 grand at Facebook, you can guarantee that your product or your record is going to get heard above everybody else's. If you chuck 100 grand at Google, you can make sure that your video is trending on YouTube, which means everyone's going to see it. Same for Spotify. It becomes a money game again. You know, in order to get heard above everyone else on these platforms, you just pay the platforms, you know, which you can do if you're a major label, but you can't if you're an independent, you know.
Problem is that the major labels then are struggling. You can't really, in the back in the day, if they were getting 91% or 81% of every sale, you know, and you were selling albums at 15 quid or 20 quid or 10 quid, whatever, but they can't even get the money back now. So who's paid for it? You know, I mean, they must be taking a cut off of merchandising or the tour. I don't know, but I don't actually know where they make their money now. It used to be quite clear.
It was always a shaky model. I mean, like, you know, you had the successful artists would pay for all the losses of the other artists. That was kind of the way it worked, wasn't it? You know, like Madonna was probably paying for, you know, the risk they took on Muse or something like that, you know. And then, you know, for every successful major label band, there's like another 40 they signed up that month who, you know, nobody ever got to hear of, because that's what they do, you know, because no one really knows what's going to stick, you know, so they sign a bunch of stuff up. They throw it all out to market, and whichever one just for whatever reason just kind of happens to hit at that point, you know, might become the next Coldplay or the next Ed Sheeran. But then we never hear about all the others that also got the big deal that nothing ever happened to them. So I think that model still seems to be the way that it is for the big boys. You know, the big labels that have got the cash, they can afford to take a loss on a ton of artists because they've got such big hitters that they're rinsing for pretty much everything. You know, they're pay for all the losses. You know.
The thing is, I see people going on and on about Spotify and all this, but you know, I don't think there is a perfect solution, because in the back of the day, like you said, the record labels were the ones making the money, and I always use the example of Lemmy in his autobiography, saying that he made more money out of 5 songs he wrote for Ozzy than he ever did through anything they ever did with Motorhead, just purely because of the way the deal was set up badly. With a bit different management and record labels with Motorhead, and you know, and that's, you know, thinking of the amount of stuff that he released, that's pretty sad. So, you know, everybody's decrying the new model obviously doesn't fucking understand what the old model was like.
It wasn't that great before, you know.
It's just, you know, all it is, it's different. It's a different type of businessman. It's the same type of businessman, but a different way of getting the money.
As an artist, you've got a lot more options now. It's better now for an artist than it was before. You've just got different problems. At least now it's not all about getting a deal. And if you can't get a deal, well, there we go. Go and get a job in a factory is over. You know, you don't have that problem now. At least you got some options now, you know. Like I make money on Spotify. I make more money every month on Spotify than Gary Newman was saying he made on whatever hit. He didn't say what hit it was, but I'm guessing it was Cars. Yeah. You know, he said he got $37 for it. Well, I make more than that on Spotify every month, you know, because the problem there is not Spotify. The problem is that he's got a major label that are taking probably 80% of the fruit of that yield. And then he's got to pay his manager and his band and his co-writer and his producer. There's so many people in that model has so many people in the chain that the artist is getting hardly anything left. It is at that level, it's more representative of the deal that he signed all those years ago than Spotify necessarily. Not that I'm a fan of Spotify, because I'm not, but as someone that owns 100% of his label side, his publishing side, is I'm the artist as well, the performance side. I get 100% of everything, so I'm not shifting anywhere near the kind of play count that someone like Gary Newman is, but I'm making more money, which is fucking crazy.
But the salutary element of that is that you're in control over it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, what would you recommend? A new band comes out, They get offered like, label deals and stuff like that at the moment, which is it's a bit of a tough one. Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of challenges thrown at people. What would you recommend to someone about, like, signing to a label these days? Because a lot of it, there's no ride, there's no money up front, there's nothing like that anymore. It's like
Yeah.
you need to give us the record before we've even done anything.
I'm really surprised that, like, even amongst the new generation coming up, there still seems to be this mythology about getting a deal. Like, it's all about getting a deal. Like, I run a label, it's a small label, but it's mostly a publishing company and a sync company. But it means that I have a lot of conversations with artists still on a daily basis. Some are like really young, just starting out and stuff like that, and some have been around the block. But I find that what they've all got in common is still this belief in got to get a deal, got to get a deal. They don't really know why they want one. It just seems to give it some kind of validation to what they're doing. And then it feels a little bit like, oh, great, now someone else can take care of this. We can just do the playing. But oftentimes these guys at the labels don't know what they're doing either. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be like, smug or anything about it, but there's not, any rules to this. How do you decide what's good music? How do you decide what's going to stick in the marketplace? There's no real formula for this outside of throwing money at it, but that's not exact science either. So I think the best advice I could give as someone that has fallen for this trap before, chasing a deal. I mean, like, as John said, I spent like 8 years after the hype of my first album chasing a deal before I decided to just fucking release it myself independently. That was a long chunk of time I lost still chasing that carrot for no reason. And in that time, I signed all sorts of bloody dodgy deals to labels that just screwed me over and wasted my time. And I could have just done it myself and kept the momentum going straight from the off. So I always say to bands, do as much as you can for yourself until the labels come to you. And then when they do come, you're in a better position of leverage, because it's like, well, we don't really need you. So what are you going to do for us? And at that point, then you can maybe negotiate a good licensing deal for yourself where they do put some money up front, or they do have to like give you some tangible things that they're going to do for you, written down, rather than just like, hey, we'll be your label and let's see what happens. At that point, you're in a position of power when you're negotiating, because you don't need them. So I think you're going to get way more from a label you're going to get it's going to be way easier to get a conversation with a label if you just crack on and take advantage of these tools that are freely available and do as much as you can for yourself and just keep it moving. Just do it for the playing, don't do it for the, the worrying about the money or anything like that. I think, just get the music good, do the best job you can on trying to, keep it, the cheap production, buy some equipment, do it yourself, learn how to use, Logic or whatever. Do as much as you can for yourself. Take advantage of social media. Use these free tools, and I mean, if what you've got is good, and you're passionate and you're consistent about it, then you'll find your fan base. And as soon as you do that, the industry will come to you.
I think one of the things I'd like you to clarify, because obviously you mentioned you have a record label called, I'll say, Conic Records, which is KONIC. So I think part of the problem is that a lot of bands, when they talk about record labels, they don't know what used to happen. They know what used to happen because they've read the books. They don't know the difference now between the different types of models of record labels. But they also don't know things about licensing, publishing, sync. Could we talk about that? Because I think that's an insight that I got from reading your book that I wasn't really aware of, and having talked to Adam Hayward in the past about it as well, because I didn't have a freaking clue what sync was. I thought it was something you just put your dishes in to wash. But well, I heard it, but I didn't know what it meant.
John, let's, before you catch on there, I'm telling you now, you don't even know where the sink is, mate. Nick will tell you this straight away, mate. Will you stop leaving your dishes on the side?
Yeah, I do, because I have to go and get water. I have to find the water for my whiskey, of course, if I can know where it is.
You water your whiskey now? Are you Scot?
So, but yeah, James, if you could talk us through that, because I think that would help people's understanding of it.
What, so sync specifically, or the whole thing?
Talking about the different models that are currently available as a record label, and then the different elements within that, like what's, they could be just distributors, they could be this, they could be that. If you could talk us through your understanding of the current status, things that's within the record labels available to these young bands.
Well, I suppose, the first one is obviously the traditional get a deal with, a label you've heard of. Epitaph or Sony or someone like that. And the sort of current thing seems to be these 360 deals, where in order to get a bit of money, they'll have a share of everything, where every gig, every bit of merch you sell, every song, every stream, they're pretty much getting everything across the board. They own everything you do, basically. So that's the kind of like the current like major label deal. So that's kind of like, when people think again a big deal, I think it's still very much the same as it always was. But now there's a lot more options. The other end of that spectrum is to do what I do, which is to be completely independent and do absolutely everything yourself, which is not for everybody, because it's a 24/7 job, and it does take a lot of the joy of the music out of it, because I spend less time, jamming on my guitar like I used to love doing, and more time, doing emails and, planning and marketing strategies and fundraising and stuff like that. So that's not for everybody either. But within the middle now, there are a lot more options. Like a licensing deal is pretty cool, whereby you make the record, which is what I did with Made in China before that label ran off to Barbados with all of our money. That was basically, we made the record, I produced it, we covered the costs of making the product, and then we licensed it to a label. So they didn't own the product, they would just handle taking it to market, basically. So that would be promotion and distribution. And that is an option that I would recommend people move to if they start out independent. Like I just said, do as much as you can until you start getting some interest. But if you're getting, your fan base is building and stuff like that, and you're shifting some units, then a licensing deal is definitely worth looking at, because then you still maintain the creative ownership. A licensing deal will have a period after which it expires, and then all the rights go back to yourself again. And a label will basically be doing a lot of the stuff that you can't do or don't want to do yourself. You're kind of giving it to more capable hands. The sort of version of that I do as the label is to use a label services company. So there are companies that kind of do a similar thing for labels. So if there are things that I don't want to do as a label owner, I can sort of outsource that to a label services company, and they'll handle it for me. So again, that could be like distribution or publishing or sync or anything like that. So I think the three main things that a band really needs to look at really is, obviously there's the golden deal at the top there, which I don't think is that attractive really for most people's purposes. Yeah. There's the complete 100% ownership to absolutely everything yourself at the other end of the spectrum. And then there's a lot more leeway in the middle ground now, where you can just outsource certain things to certain people. Obviously they have to take a cut and stuff like that, but at least they don't own it. And at least you can walk away if it doesn't work out, and at least you get to sort of make the product that you want as well. So I think, like licensing and stuff like that is probably something that is more attractive to me, I think.
That's cool. So can we talk now about sync and what was the other one?
The publishing, sync, and distribution, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, well, sync, basically, for those who don't know, is just basically music synchronization. So, if you hear an advert on a telly or in a movie, it's all got music in it. And there are companies whose job it is basically to find that music and license it to advertisers or movie makers, for decent money. Like the first big sync I got through Conic was not for me as an artist, it was for somebody else. It was like 40 grand, and I got a sync request today for like 70 grand for a Christmas song for a supermarket, big money. And that goes straight to the band, and like the advertiser doesn't own it. They just get to license it for like a year or something to use in their advert. You can still do what the hell you like with it. If you're touring it or promoting it, it's still your song, but you're just allowing them to use it in their advert or their movie for, money down. So in an industry where it's very hard to make money, sync is a very good thing that bands should be looking at, or artists of any genre should be looking at, because there's kind of, you never know what people are going to want. 1 minute, some German car advert might want like extreme hardcore death metal, but then some movie in America might want quirky kind of kooky acoustic ukulele folk music or something. So it's just, you just literally never know what somebody is going to want. And if you're one of those lucky dudes that manages to blag yourself, the spot, then yeah, there's a ton of money that can be made there. So I run a sync agency at Conic Records. So I basically realized that I was getting loads of sync requests every day for songs that weren't really like my music, because my music was very progressive at that time. So that's when I thought, well, I'm wasting these opportunities. I could be giving these opportunities to other artists, and I'll just function as a kind of middleman agent between the two, and I'll take, a 10% or something on the deal, So that's kind of where the publishing venture at Conic Records started out. But there's loads of these sync companies, and it's a very busy industry. People want songs all the time. So I think bands should definitely look for sync agencies and make a proposal to them. That, like I said, it's a very free and easy thing. It's not like a label. They're not signing you. There's non-exclusive. You can work with as many as you want, and that just enhances your odds of getting picked.
So when you, I mean, you recently took on one of our bands, Carabella, and I spoke to Adam about it, and he was saying their kind of alt pop sound is probably better suited to a wider variety of sync than say somebody that is a death metal. What would you say that a band should, if a band's considering sync, really, what do they need to think about? Musically, is there a genre that does better than others?
There are a few, yeah. I mean, in all the years that I've been doing it, you get a bit of everything. It can be really surprising and really surreal sometimes, what people want. But there are a few genres that are a bit more popular than others. I mean, if you think of advertising, a lot of the time they want something that's quite inoffensive. It sits behind the voiceover. It's not going to put people off buying the product. So a lot of those genres would be acoustic music or electro pop. It's got a good vibe about it or something like that. Rock, or garage rock would normally be, a beer advert or a car advert or something like that. So there are certain genres that are more popular in the mainstream advertising space than others, but you get a lot of wild cards too, man. I mean, obviously a band shouldn't really craft their sound for the purposes of getting a sync. The band should just make the music they make. But there are certain genres that you've got more of a higher probability than others. But at the same time, it's a low probability as well, because they can only pick one song. And these music supervisors and these ad agencies will be sending these briefs out to tons of companies all around the world, and each of these companies will be pitching loads of songs for it, and they can only pick one. So it is like a lottery. So what I say to bands is, look, we'll pitch you for as many opportunities as we can, but it could be a week, 6 months, a year, never, before we get lucky. So you can't bank on that. But when it comes in, it's nice, because when it comes in, it could be 50 grand or something.
Yeah, it's cool that. Yeah, I mean, it's like when you as a label look for taking on bands, I'm hoping this will help bands as well. What do you look for yourselves as a label when you consider bands? What is it you personally look for, or you guys look for?
Well, on the label side, we're not that active yet, purely because it's myself and a very few other artists on the label side at the moment. I mean, the label was initially set up just, to represent my own catalog. The publishing and the sync side is a lot broader, but the label side is, we haven't really expanded that much yet, because, as we said earlier, it's a lot of dirty work for hardly any comeback. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you make your money as a label really at this level, unless the artist is yourself, So in terms of, we don't really in terms of the label sides, we're not really pushing that too much. I mean, I do distribution deals for certain people, obviously, because I've got a distribution pipeline and stuff. But that, it tends to be friends, bands and stuff, really favors, for favors sort of thing. It's not something that I get actively behind releasing, because I don't really believe that, bands at an independent level need it, really. People ask me all the time, well, you put the record out because it's easier than us doing it. I'm like, yeah, but why? Because I've got to get something for my time doing it, and all the other people in the chain are going to get their percentage, distributors and all that sort of stuff. There's no point. I mean, I know I'm shooting myself in the foot, because I could be taking, I could be cashing in off your hard work, but there's literally no point, because a band can go to CD Baby or Ditto Music. They have global distribution for themselves. Why not do that? Unless I'm able to put money down and promote it and stuff, and then actually do something to justify taking a cut, then I don't really feel like I should do that. So we don't push the label side too much. But in terms of the publishing stuff, publishing is very unchanged, really. You know, it functions the same way now as it did decades ago. It's very kind of mechanized and automated kind of system. Basically, what we look for with publishing is it generating activity enough that there's publishing royalties to be collected? If not, you know, it may be an awesome band, but there's no point, again, us taking our percentage for collecting royalties if it's, you know, if we're just taking $10 off a band, you know, when, you know, they could probably get that 50 quid themselves, you know. So publishing, yeah, I mean, if someone's got some songs that are getting radio play, they're getting a good bit of activity on the streaming platforms, and we know, and that kind of gives an indication that there's money out there to be collected in these territories that they can't do for themselves, then yeah, we can do that for them.
How do you measure that? How do you measure that? You know, like, so you're looking at a band, or bands are coming to you. What would be your bottom line? So do you look at Spotify plays, YouTube? How do you make that decision of whether it's going to be worthwhile for you as a company to get involved? What's your kind of bottom line? What's your KPIs?
Spotify monthly listeners is a handy one. It's a nice, easy one to start with. The problem is with Spotify plays is that they can be bought, you know. So same with YouTube plays. You know, if someone's got like 50,000 YouTube plays and 3 comments, then you know it's probably bullshit, you know. So so yeah, monthly listeners is a handy one. It's not, you know, an exact science, but it kind of, you know, it gives you an indicator that, okay, this artist may be doing some other stuff. So from there, you can do a bit more research then and have a look at their other socials, and, you know, they're getting radio play and stuff like that. And I think above a certain point, all the major publishers have probably already been in and you know, made a proposal. So we're sort of we look around the kind of 20,000 to 60,000 monthly listeners kind of area. Anything kind of less than that, really, they don't really need a publisher. You know, they're getting their money themselves, you know, from the PRS or whatever the PRO is in their country, and they can probably do it themselves, you know, through something like Centric or Song Trust. But above that level, you know, where you're probably getting a lot of plays in certain territories and stuff, then it helps to have a publisher come in. And we're set up to do that, you know, with our deal with our sub-publisher. So yeah, that's sort of, I start with that, and then that leads me down a kind of path then of making my shortlist, you know. I've just realized how dark it's getting. I'll just turn the light on.
You know, I nearly put my light on because I was watching you. I nearly went to put my light on, and I thought, I'm fucking bright.
At the start of the chat, it was like this, just gradually got darker and darker.
So it gets darker in Wales first before it hits Liverpool and then Scotland.
That's what it is, man.
It's because it's closer to hell.
I like that.
Well, thanks for that, mate, because I think things like that it's the information that nobody tells you, you know.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot for reading your book on it and talking to Adam and talking to yourself in the past about it. So thanks for that. It's cool.
So
hey, that's all right, man. No problem. Sorry, it's hard to talk about this stuff without making it boring, because a lot of this stuff, you know, it is boring. But unfortunately, like, you know, it's not that difficult either. You know, I mean, if you can have a straight conversation with someone who's kind of been around the block and been burned a few times, then they can kind of teach you the ropes a bit. You know, a little bit of knowledge can really help. So, I mean, you know, it is difficult to talk about this stuff because, you know, you see people kind of get bored. They're like, oh, publishing, what the fuck's he talking about? But it's so important, you know, because you're not really going to make any money, you know, from selling your music, but you can make money off publishing. The publishing industry hasn't really changed. Like I said, you know, it's everybody wants those big bucks or that big sync song, you know, because 60 grand in the bank in one hit, that's fucking awesome. But, you know, the chance of getting that is like 1 in a million. Whereas publishing rolls in every month, you know, on work you've done already, you know, on activity that's just happening on the streaming platforms. That's regular, reliable money. But it's a boring subject to talk about. But I mean, you know, as all important things are, you know,
it's educational, because this is what we're trying to achieve on our show, where there's a lot of people, we've been burnt in the past. I'm sure John has, I have, as I say, yourself as James, where you pick something because you think it sounds good. And it's always it sounds the best ever deal that you could ever imagine. Like, and then next minute you find out you owe them money or something, shit like that. To be perfectly honest, if we can prevent that and bands can actually learn from it and then not approach people who they think actually it sounds a little bit too good to be true, do your own work, check it out. Even if you need to get someone in to review the paperwork, just get get opinions, even reach out to
Yeah,
your management team and stuff like that
Totally.
and ask them.
If
So
it sounds too good to be true, it
it
is.
normally is, yeah.
I've fallen for that so many times, and I totally get it. You know, like I've been stung by everybody, and then again and again and again, because you want to believe. You know what I mean? It's fucking hard out there. I totally get it, man. It's hard being in a band, you know, and because we love it so much, and it's a drug, and it's an obsession, and we have to keep doing it, you know. But I mean, there's so many snakes out there that know that. You know, they know that all they got to do is tell you how much they love your band, and you'll be like, oh, really? We like this guy. Let's sign with him. You know, I've fallen for it myself, so I totally get it. But I mean, like I said earlier, luckily, there's just not the need now. There's so many things you can do for yourself, and a little bit of knowledge. You know, you don't have to go reading books on it. There's plenty of people. You know, people can ask me anything they want. I'm easily contactable on social media, and I love helping people out so they can save making the same mistakes I did and wasting the same time I did. You know, so we're a lot more connected now. It's easy to reach out to any of us, and ask for advice or ask a question, and we're happy to help. So yeah, I mean, I think there's not as many excuses now for bands to make the same mistakes that perhaps we did. We didn't have like Google and stuff back then.
YouTube, and I mean, to be fair, it used to be reading books, didn't it? So it was quite interesting when I was reading your book, because you've gone through some fucking hard times chasing your dream, and you've been ripped off by some right bastards. So if there's anybody, that was the reason why I contacted you, said, would you mind coming on and talking about this, James? Because there's nobody better to talk about it than somebody that's fucking been through the wars and fucking come out the other side and is actually taking control of it himself.
Well, the guy that we signed a label deal with actually went to jail for shooting somebody, so it doesn't get any worse than that.
Okay, kids. So now you hear it from James's mouth that the record industry is this fucked up. It actually is. We've got evidence. This is where the equalizer comes in now, in the back door or something, isn't it? We get all those
and we don't mean a graphic equalizer at that.
Oh, I love it. Fucking hell, man. How did you find that out, by the way? Because that's fucking ace. That's a story in its own, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's one of the ones in the book. I had to tread carefully with that one. I had to just keep saying allegedly all the time, because I actually took the guy to court, and I won. It took a year, and I actually won, represented myself, kind of like just learning as I went, And but during the time it was happening, he was actually already planning his escape to Barbados, where he was a citizen through marriage. So there was nothing we could do. He ripped everybody off. It was us, Kerrang, all the magazines and PR companies, loads of bands. He had everybody's money, stockpiled it all up, disappeared to Barbados. And so I had this kind of court order against him, which didn't mean anything. So one of the, throughout the book, I put like about 11 points, I think, like tips throughout the book. And one of them is your contract doesn't mean shit. Because we had a great contract, we spent months, going back and forth, getting the contract tweaked and stuff like that. But we failed to include the clause about, in case the guy disappears to Barbados with all of your money. We didn't foresee that one coming. So
what James isn't telling you, Ian, is that this guy was also well known for threatening people. And he thought it was bullshitting, but then it turned out later on he was a fucking nasty piece of work.
Yeah.
It was real.
Yeah, I tried to get testimonials from a lot of his ex-staff, to give a character reference for the courts and everything. And they were like, nobody wanted to talk about it, basically. And then the one guy private message, I actually had to meet a guy, I think he was a video maker, so I can't quite remember now, but I actually had to meet him at a dodgy pub in Camden. He wouldn't even tell me his real name or anything. So I didn't know what I was walking into, because I thought I was going to walk in there and the guy was going to be in there with a pile of his mates and kick the shit out of me. But it was actually this guy. And he told me that the guy was very physically threatening and stuff like that. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And then I found out in Barbados he'd gone to jail for shooting somebody in the stomach.
Holy fuck. Jesus Christ.
It was a Welsh tourist and he thought it was James.
Jesus. Okay, moving on quickly.
When I wrote the book, I didn't have any knowledge that it was going to ever be published. So I name everybody's real name in there. So I named this guy, Mark Daghorn. I talk about him openly in the book, what a prick he was. And I for me, it was just kind of like my own catharsis, just kind of getting down all of my stories so far, being a musician and stuff, And I had no idea that it was going to get published and be, you know, on the shelf of my local Waterstones. You know, I slag off bands in there, bands that we played with that I thought sucked and were like assholes to us. You know, I slag them off. I'm naming them by name. So there's a few kick-ins waiting for me around the place, man. You know.
That's why he only plays in his own. He plays the only gigs he plays is in his own house now.
Yeah.
Fucking dare to go out.
Nowhere now in his little fortress.
Love it, love it. So let's talk about your guitar playing, because obviously this is another interesting one. Obviously it's all over your webpage that you had major surgery when you was a kid. Just after you started playing guitar. So
yeah.
Obviously that's a challenge on its own, having hearing issues and learning how to play guitar. How did you overcome this? Because that is a major issue, in my opinion, when you're trying to learn to play. And
yeah, but it's kind of funny now, man, because I've got 40% hearing loss in both ears as a result of the surgery, and I got really full-on tinnitus in my left side. It's like raw. I can hear it now. It's there all day, every day. It's like white noise just blasting away, and it's been that way ever since I was 10. So I'm kind of used to it. But the ironic thing is now is that all my friends have actually got the same level of hearing loss and tinnitus that I've got, you know, for playing in bands all their life, you know. So I mean, that's stupid as well, you know, like they didn't, you know, they could just wear fucking earplugs, you know, and maintain the tools of their trade. But I mean, yeah, for me, like I started playing guitar when I was 9, and then I loved it, fell in love with it. That was my thing, obsessed. And then a year later, I got diagnosed with having a tumor, like a cancer in each ear. And to get one of them is really rare. And I had both at the same time, which is just chances of that are just, you know, they don't exist basically. And it was quite advanced as well. So I had to have major surgery where they actually cut the ear off. I've still got the scars so they can get inside and, you know, root these things out. And it came back on this side, so they had to do it again. So I had 3 operations all in. And so I was in and out of school. I mean, like I went to high school when I was 11. So like a year later, another the first 2 years of high school, I was in and out all the time, you know, for operations and 6 weeks at home, you know, recovering and stuff. So it kind of screwed up, you know, my high school, and it screwed up my musical, you know, starting out as a guitar player. You know, it kind of screwed that up a little bit because, you know, within a year of discovering my passion, you know, half my hearing was taken away. So I still, you know, carried on teaching myself. You know, I had my acoustic guitar in the hospital with me, you know, much to the dismay of my ward buddies, you know, as I was trying to learn to play guitar with this massive fucking bandage on my head. And but as I mentioned earlier before we came on, what I did was I discovered that because I had a little Spanish acoustic guitar, if I put my chin on it, the sound would resonate around my skull and I could hear it. Great. So I just did that. So grit my teeth, dig my chin in, and just cracked on, you know, like that for the next few years. And then by the time I was a teenager, you know, I was pretty nippy on the guitar. You know, I was doing all the Steve Vai stuff and, you know, all the Dream Theater shredding and sweep picking, all that sort of stuff. Completely self-taught. I didn't know the names of any of the scales. You know, I was just learning by ear. And I had a lot of time because I wasn't in school a lot. You know, I was just at home playing the guitar. So, so yeah, in many ways, music kind of saved me through that journey, you know, which is ironic. But, you know, yeah, you know, it kind of, it sucked a little bit. But I mean, like I said, I'm at the point now where my hearing is pretty standard for my industry. Do
you think
you probably get more hearing than most actually now?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Obviously, you record on your own material and stuff like that. How do you find that now with obviously recording? Do you have any issues? Because obviously there's a lot of frequencies that you'll be missing and stuff like that. So it must be challenging.
Yeah, well, my hearing hasn't changed a lot since I was 10, which is amazing, really. But what happens is if you look at the graph, I mean, I had a test last year and it's exactly the same. It's like that. And then once you get to like 10K, it just goes down. So, and it's been that way since I was a kid. So, yeah, my top frequencies are just, they're gone, basically. So, on the first couple of records when I was producing, I didn't have, you know, the option to sort of outsource any of the process to anybody. You know, I just mixed it myself. So I would use like a plug-in multi-scope to look at the frequency graph of my mix to see if I was overcompensating too much for the high frequencies. So I'd do it visually and try and pull it down, and just like, you know, listen to it on loads of different systems, ask people what they thought, you know, and things like that. But now what I do is I outsource the mixing. So I record everything, produce everything, and then I send all the files over to somebody else to mix and master it. I sit in on the sessions to, make the balances the way I like, but it's just, for me, it is to sort of compensate for the fact that, am I cranking up the top end too much because of my hearing, so I do that, and that's my way to get around it now. But it wasn't too much of a hindrance, because, you can just turn things up,
We've all done that a few times. It's great fun. It's great fun.
What I would like to say at this point to anybody that's watching this is, I highly recommend James's book, and I'm not just bullshitting because he sat there, because it's an apocryphal tale, and it's called Noise Damage: My Life as a Rock and Roll Underdog, and it talks through a lot of this, but you'll learn a lot from it. And but not just that, it's actually funny. It's really, if you've ever been in a band, which I'm sure everybody watching this has either been in or been around, it's fucking, it just makes you chuckle, because we've all been there to some degree or other. But honestly, it's a great book. You get it on Amazon and online and all that. So please get it, not just to make this man richer, but it's that you'll learn from it, and then share it with all the rest of your mates, because he's a socialist, so I know he won't worry about that.
Tax the rich.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you read the first chapter out on YouTube as well, don't you? You've got the first chapter, so if anyone wants a taster of it.
Yeah, there's a free chapter. The whole audiobook is on Spotify. You can listen to the audiobook for free now, if it's me reading it as well. But there's the intro chapter is on iBooks, YouTube. The publisher that put it out, iBooks.com. I've got a free chapter there. And I've put some samplers up on YouTube as well. Again, like audio book samples of me reading it. So I think the intro chapter is there, and I think there's another chapter there as well where I talk about, the what it feels like to play live for anyone that hasn't done it, and what it is about playing music and playing live that just keeps us putting up with so much shit.
Actually, I can't remember who you were talking to. It might have been Jack Hutchison or something like that, Ian. And I just read that chapter about you describing what it was like being on stage, and I says, and it took me back 40 years, for 35 years when it was me, and I was like, it just took me right back. It was one, it sounds like I'm sycophantic, it's not, but it is one of the best descriptions I've ever heard. Read about what it feels like. It really is. It's that good.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that means a lot, man. Like I said, when I wrote the book, I was just writing it, for my own catharsis. I wrote the whole thing in 2 months. I had no idea it was going to get published. I had no idea anybody was going to read it. So that means a lot that it's been so well received. I could never have foreseen that it would go to #1 on Amazon. Back in January, it was like the second best-selling rock biography after Roger Daltrey. It's about a failed band, from a little village in South Wales that no one has heard about, and a guy that basically got screwed repeatedly for 20 years and kept coming back because he just loved music so much, So I could never have foreseen that it would come out and do so well. So it means a lot that somebody like yourself as well, that has seen a lot of the same stuff would resonate with that, rather than seeing it, calling bullshit on it or whatever,
Although the only thing I was surprised at was you were a bit bourgeois. You would have been a bit sort of posh when you were having Evian showers. What happened to fucking just plain old water showers? But he used to have Evian showers in the car parks at the services.
Well,
it's not very socialist, that, James. It's not socialist, that, mate.
I'm shocked by that, actually, James. I'm
only the best in our band, boys,
I think the actual start of the book is brilliant. When you wake up in the van and there's red clay all around about the roof and all around the walls, and you wake up with a hangover wondering how the fuck it got there. And it was you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I could still remember waking up that morning, man. It's crystallized in my mind. Just like, fucking like walking out the van, sunglasses still on, still fully dressed, boots on, everything's just covered in shit. And we're in France, and I'm just like, I opened the door, I'm thinking, what the fuck? And all the stuff from inside the cabin of the van had just been thrown out into the street and everything like that. It was kind of, I think I described it in the book as like the equivalent of, like, we were too poor to trash our hotel room, so it was like the transit van equivalent of that, hotel trash. So I was just like so angry and like blind drunk, just like blacked out, for the reasons in the book, which I won't,
You had very good reasons to do it, dude.
Very good reasons.
That's all I would say. Is you had a very good reason for doing it. You need to buy the book and read it to find that.
Yeah.
When you read it, drop a message to James and just say, holy
Say that again.
shit. When you get it, guys, read it or listen to it on Spotify and get in touch with James and just say, wow, just enough's enough. And just leave it as that. And just put a comment on his page. Just go, read your book, read the first chapter. And just leave it as that.
And then his next book is going to be all the crap sandwiches you can buy in services all over the UK and Europe.
Yeah, but,
Oh, God,
but isn't that just touring life though?
Yeah.
That is like, you know, you're definitely on an independent level. You stop off at the shittiest service stations you can ever imagine. The bogs look like the ones from Train Spotting, where you pull in, you always open the door and you go, what the fuck? Who's hiding there? Like, close the door, go into the next
world, man. You know, wouldn't change it for the world.
You know what? And then turning up to a festival, we've had some really funnies where, like, you know, we were told by the venue, yeah, you're on tour, we'll look after you. They brought out these everyone closed, the venue finished, and they brought out these mattresses. We were sleeping in the fucking venue, and there was what could only be, I'm hoping that it was blood stains, because there was a lot of stains on these mattresses, and we just went, oh
yeah,
it's all right, mate. We'll sleep somewhere else. We've got other things. And
yeah, well, you see, that's posh. When I was doing it, I would have managed to shape myself around all the stains so that you were actually lying the bits with you look like one of them white tape things when somebody's been fucking dropped for a bridge or something.
It's the joys of being on tour, and that's all. That what makes you the musician that everyone thrives on.
Yeah.
Like so,
yeah. Any band that isn't prepared to put up with that stuff, you know, that throws a tantrum the first time they have to fucking break down on the M5 at 4 a.m, you know, and you're like, then fuck them. They don't deserve to be here. You know what I mean? Their band probably sucks.
Exactly. It's the whole point of actually making stories and memories in a band, and that's what you want to achieve.
That's how you pay your dues, man.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. And this is where you've had your experience, you've wrote your book, and that's what people should live up to, and go, actually, I can do this. Because some of the stories that they've seen, we've all experienced these venues. We all love these venues. We wouldn't change it for the world. And you know what? This is the music industry, and this is all part and parcel. All we're here to do is try and help it, make it a more enjoyable scenario.
Yeah, and if you're just doing it for the crack and the camaraderie with your mates and doing the gig and playing your tunes and having a road trip, then great. You know, keep it like that.
Yeah. So, from what have you been doing? Obviously, I don't want to use the COVID word, but I will do. During lockdown over the last last 2 years in theory, what have you been up to? What have you been doing? Have you been keeping yourself entertained? Obviously, you've got your own label and stuff like that. But from a music perspective, what have you been up to?
Well, I released an album during the lockdown. My latest album, Make Anger Great Again, came out last September. So just coming up on a year. And then a book came out 3 weeks after that. So that kind of kept me busy throughout the summer, because I was promoting the album for like a few months before that came out. And then obviously with the book came out, it was all about the book. And the book sort of took off and did well. So that kind of kept me busy right through till January and spring. So yeah, just that really. I mean, I'm very lucky in the sense that I didn't struggle during the lockdowns at all. Like a lot of my friends had to go and get jobs in building sites and smash their hands up and stuff, and delivery drivers and things like that. Some incredible musician friends of mine, absolutely genius players, and now laborers and stuff like that. So that was quite tragic to watch. But I mean, again, man, if I can just sing the praises of being independent, it kept me afloat. I made a few $100 a month off Spotify every month, which isn't a huge by itself, but it's free money essentially. And I had PRS money coming in and my publishing things and stuff like that, so I mean, I stayed afloat. I didn't go without for a year and a half, and that was all through my own independent ventures and stuff. So I mean, that's just another like another reason that artists should seriously consider educating themselves a little bit and setting themselves up, because you're not dependent on the old day job then, and you can stay afloat and lead a livable life. You're not making millions, but you can actually make a living, and stay out of the factory floor, by doing your own music, So I was very lucky that I already kind of had all that stuff in place. And obviously I've got a 7-album catalog that's generating money and stuff like that. So I was set up, you know, okay for it. So I didn't struggle too bad. I mean, I don't say that to show off, but it would be an insult for me to say, oh, I struggled really bad when I didn't, you know, because there's people who really, really had it bad. So, and I wasn't one of them. So yeah, I was okay. And like I said, I had the album coming out and stuff, and the book. So that kind of kept me busy. But I mean, like in terms of the lockdown this year, I've just been taking advantage of the fact like all of the industry are at home, you know, like normally when you contact people, they're like in a meeting for like the next 50 decades.
Yeah.
So now that everyone was at home, you know, and they were like dying for an excuse to get away from the kids or whatever for a bit. So I took advantage of that to like just contact like loads of fucking, you know, industry people and set some things up, you know, with distribution and sync. And I formed the new band, James Kennedy and the Underdogs, because everybody was at home. So I kind of just like tried to take advantage of the things that I could during the lockdown to set myself up for when the lockdown finished. And yeah, whether that has worked, we'll soon find out, I suppose.
So are we expecting another book in the future?
Yeah, I'm writing the second book. Off the back of the last one doing so well, I managed to get myself a literary agent who's pitching my second book as we speak. So I've written about 5 chapters of it. The response has been good so far, and the publishers have seen it. So she's pitching it to like a kind of bigger publisher that can release this next one. So whether that'll probably come out next year, because publishing takes about a year at least with book publishing, because like the printing times and stuff. So that'll probably be now, you know, like if it started now, it would be like late next year probably. So the main plan really is, you know, touring with a band. You know, we got some dates in Belgium in January. We've got some dates in Germany and France and Holland in March, including some festivals and things. So yeah, after spending like the past 2 years unable to play, the priority for me now is I want to get out there and play this fucking album, because promoting the album was really hard, because one, we were in a pandemic, you know, and two, because it was really political. I wasn't allowed to promote it. Like coming back to what we were talking about with the tech platforms, YouTube took the video down on day 1 because they thought that it was inciting violence, which is not. Facebook wouldn't let me promote it, like do it any sponsored post or anything like that, because they said it was too political. So I basically had this song that I was really proud of, and that was very relevant, because at that time that it came out, Trump was like a month away from getting, you know, the election. And then, you know, all the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening, and the anti-lockdown protests, you know, like my songs were so relevant for that time. But precisely for that reason, all the tech platforms wouldn't let me promote it at all. So that was frustrating. So what I did to promote it was every time Donald Trump tweeted, which was like every 3 seconds, I would reply with "Make Anger Great Again" with a fist, and then a link to the song. So, so just by doing that, I went from a video that was banned by YouTube to getting like 15,000 plays or something, you know, in a week or something like that. And it was all Trump fans who went there thinking that this was a kind of pro-Trump song. And when they went there, and it's the complete opposite. They were like, "You motherfucker!"
Well, that's what you call. I'll tell you what, you're brave getting back across onto the continent. Let's face it, the last fucking tour you did there didn't go great, did it? That was the one with the clay in the car, and that was the one with the clay all over the back and the front of the van and everything, wasn't
it? Yeah.
Let's hope it goes better than that, dude. It's another reason.
Yeah, man. I'm just lining up stuff for Noise Damage too, you know.
Yeah, that's it. Good planning that. How do I get more material? Let's go and tour in Europe again.
Yeah,
Evie and here we come.
So obviously, we could go on all day about this one, and I'm sure, John, we would love to have you back on to talk more about your second book, how the tour goes and stuff like that. But personally, I've always got one question where I've got to ask you, if anyone wants to reach out to you, James, and ask you, like, you know, how to get in touch with you, how do we speak to you, how do we ask you questions about record label, the sync side of things and stuff like that, how do we get in touch with you?
Well, I'm all over social media. I'm easy to get in touch with. You know, I always check my DMs and stuff like that. I'm more than happy to answer the questions from people and help people out, you know, with regards to setting themselves up independently, or if they want advice or ask questions or anything like that. I'm more than happy to. I've had a lot of people who've been very good to me in doing the same for me, giving me advice and stuff. And good guys are not easy to find in this business. So, you know, I try to be one, you know, as often as I can. So, yeah, I mean, Facebook, James Kennedy UK. Twitter, James Kennedy UK, same on Instagram. My website is jameskennedystuff.com. You can email me there. info@conicrecords.com as well is the label one. Like I say, people are more than welcome to contact me. Facebook's probably the best one because I get less DMs there, so I can actually, you know, spend a bit of time replying to people. On my personal page, you know, hunt me down. My current profile pic is me in a leather jacket saying "Tax the Rich" on the back. So if you see that one, that's me. Feel free to drop me a line. Yeah, you know, I like talking about this stuff if it helps.
Yeah, definitely. What I'll do is I'll put all the links down below. So, guys, if you're watching this, please reach out to James. He's a class guy. So get in touch with him. He will happily answer the questions. James, I just want to thank you personally. It's been a great chat. We could talk all day about this stuff and have a laugh and reminisce about so many things. So, John, I'm sure you've got other questions, or if you wanted to, is it over to you now to end the show, mate?
Well, yeah, like you say, I mean, we could talk forever with this guy because he's got a lot to say, and we've got a lot of questions to ask. But for this time, you know what to do: subscribe and hit that like.